why is this such a critical vote? This vote for Speaker in both houses of Parliament. We saw Kalonzo Musyoka apparently fronted for the National Assembly. His party said no. Then now he's running for Senate. Kenneth Marende now running for National Assembly. Why is it such a critical vote? Is it just the timing of it? We've just come out of an election, and then this is the next stage for the respective parties to display their might.
Oh, no. Well, listen, Parliament is an arm of government. Remember that we have three arms of government. We have the executive, headed by the president. We have the legislature, that is headed by the speaker. And then, of course, the judiciary, headed by the chief justice. Now, the legislature is responsible for holding, first of all, for oversighting the executive, right? And legislating, budgeting. There are so many roles that Parliament plays, critical in representing the people and ensuring that the checks and balances that are needed to keep in check the excesses of the executive are, that take place. So as the Speaker of the House, you are the head of the legislature, and you set the tempo for the House and how the House moves in its role. Unfortunately, I don't think that we've had a very good example under the new constitution, because both the 12th and the 11th and the 12th Parliament that were headed by Speaker Justin Muturi actually let Kenyans down. In fact, by and large, what we saw was a legislature that played to the tune of the executive. Whatever the executive wanted, the executive got. One of the biggest challenges I think that we have as a country, we delegate our sovereign power. The sovereign power belongs to the people, and we exercise that sovereignty when we vote, so that we delegate this authority to these representatives. Now, our parliamentarians are supposed to now exercise that power on our behalf to ensure that the executive is kept in check. What we have seen, and as Wanjiru rightly pointed out, is that they go in, and I think, Irene, you said it well, that they represent themselves and their interests. We see calls, the wages, the first thing that they do, first order of business that we've seen with both the 11th and 12th parliaments was the wages and the benefits to members of parliament. We have seen things like, now I think we're going to have a renewed challenge on issues of CDF, which was supposed to be retired under the devolved system, but was revived in a certain way through the national government CDF. But that is very problematic because it's pegged to a percentage of our budget. And so the members of parliament have been incentivized to overlook certain government excesses and executive fiscal maladministration because of CDF, so that CDF becomes like a bribe. So when government has, the executive has over budgeted, because a percentage of that budget goes towards CDF, they allow it to go because it's more money to them. They use CDF as a patronage, to help themselves, and their cronies at the constituency level. So this seat of the speaker becomes very important, number one, in guiding our legislature in playing its representative and oversight role. We've seen many times, especially when we talk about like the 2/3 gender principle, cabinet must be approved by parliament, the cabinet nominees. Many times we wrote to the speaker to reject the lists that were sent by the executive because they did not meet the minimum threshold of the 2/3 gender principle in terms of representation. That was ignored, and Parliament continued to endorse that illegality. So the Speaker then becomes responsible for allowing Parliament to endorse illegalities. Legislation that is presented before the House, guiding the House to pass legislation that meets the threshold of the Constitution, we've seen, I don't know how many legislations have been struck down by court because sections of the legislation that has been passed does not meet or is in conflict with the Constitution. So the Speaker's position in terms of being able to guide the House business, to guide committees of Parliament, and to ensure that constitutionalism and the rule of law is adhered to is really important. So we need to have a strong Speaker, not the kind of Speaker who allows for Parliament to be a marionette, because a lot of the challenges that we have today, when you look at debt, the debt management in this country, Parliament, the blame lies squarely in Parliament, because they're the ones who've been allowing for these budgets to pass. They're the ones who've been allowing for the executive to what is the word I'm looking for, to ignore public finance management principles, you know, and allowing them really to borrow willy-nilly, or not even holding them account when they borrow against constitutional principles. That is the role of Parliament. So even when we complain about the state of the nation right now, we are looking really at Parliament, because that is their role. So the Speaker, in terms of guiding us, is important. Okay. So I mean, I look at the choice of Speaker. We all remember Kenneth Marende. In terms of also ensuring non-partisan approach to legislation, in terms of being able to guide the House from a non-partisan perspective. He did very well, despite the fact that at that time he was a member of the ODM party, which had the majority members in the House, but he guided the House and he was balanced. He did not allow the government to bring in its biases. You know, he guided the House, and I think we remember him many times, even the media, you know, called him, you know, some of his judgments as Solomonic. You know, we did not see that with Justin Muturi. We saw an openly partisan Speaker, you know, who basically was the voice of the executive in the House, not of the people. So it was extremely disgraceful. Now, with the kind of choices that we've seen there, Wetangula is a seasoned politician. I've seen he's resigned his seat. So I suppose that is an indication that it's almost a certainty that he's getting it. And I think that on many fronts, you'll find that these people, they are able to mobilize cross parties, right? Whether he will make a good Speaker waits to be seen, but he has been on you know, in the political scene for a long time. Whether, you know, whether we are going to have the same disaster that we had, because in my personal opinion, I think that Justin Muturi was a total and absolute disaster for Kenya, for Kenya's Parliament. And we need to see a total departure from that. It is comforting that the president-elect has spoken about, you know, observing the rule of law. And if Kenya is going to get out of the current crisis that it faces at both the economic level, food security issues, issues of cohesion, you know, to be able to guide the country through these turbulent times that lie ahead, we're really going to need a very sober-minded Speaker. And we're going to need the president to work together with the legislature to actually guide the country, to steer the country through these turbulent waters. So we need a Speaker who is able to put his foot down, or her foot down. I'm disappointed that we don't have many women. We only have Gladys Sholay. It would have been good to see a mix, you know, female Speaker, male deputy, but